Good morning and welcome to our Charity Fleetcare webinar on why driver training is essential for your charity. Just like to introduce myself, Ron Hutton, Managing Director of Charity Fleetcare, Dennis Cronin, Director at Charity Fleetcare. We've got Katie, who's our marketing executive that you've probably received all the emails regarding this webinar from. And our guest speaker, Hendrickson from the air ambulance. So just a little bit of an overview of Charity Fleetcare. We've been in the sector now helping charities for nearly 10 years. We're the only dedicated vehicle management specialist helping charities to run safer, more efficient and environmental friendly vehicles. We've spent quite a few years in this sector understanding the unique challenges that charities face and trying to address them with the services that we provide, which is vehicle leasing, telematics, driver training and fleet management services.
Yeah, just to follow on there from what Ron said there, basically what we're trying to do for you guys is bring in something that's really cost effective for you, that will give you everything that you need to run your charity's health and safety, driver training, but also be able to keep digital records for yourselves in a much more friendly, non-paper based, very cost effective way. And then you guys will be able to show that you're looking after your drivers and providing them with all the latest updates and changes to the regulations that come out all the time. And also just a quick one, thank you guys, for joining us. We appreciate you. You're all very busy and hopefully you'll get something out of this.
So why is driver training essential for your charity? Well, there's three reasons really. Three key steps, sorry. We need to identify your driver training needs, identify the right training methods, and then implement a driver training plan. And this is really based on the information that we gather from drivers. We bring drivers into our business without any real knowledge of how they drive. My experience going back 15-20 years now is in fleet management was bringing a driver in to a driving position, and all we knew really was that they had a driving license, and we would hand over the keys for an asset that's potentially worth 40 or 50,000 pounds without knowing anything about that driver. So that is why driver training is essential, really, because we need to understand a driver's risk, I suppose, from a driver's risk from their previous observations and profiling. So if we take a look at this slide, why driver training is essential for your charity. The findings that we've got from assessments that have been done previously is it gives us a percentage of 70% of drivers are below the acceptable professional standard. And this is purely because drivers will pass their test, look at a highway code and never go back to any form of training since passing their test. So it's really important that we put stages into a profiling and e-learning basis to take drivers forward safely. Then you.
Yeah, I'll run through this one. So why is the driver training essential for your charity? Well, I know this sounds a bit harsh, but even though we're all charities and we're all trying to do the best for in our communities, there is still a duty of care to the drivers, which is a legal requirement, and that also runs for the grey fleet as well, for the huge amount of volunteer drivers that we work with. We have a duty of care to them as well, to make sure that we're giving them the training and the tools and equipment they need to work outside there in a safe environment. And also, you know, our telematics throws up a lot of incidents of drivers that can often be speeding. And when we look into this, it's all these things sometimes are done with the best intentions, like they're trying to do a lot more for the charity. They're trying to do too many deliveries sometimes, or trying to get too much done, which can result in speeding offences and, in the worst case situation, an accident, which absolutely nobody wants. So what does the driver training do? How can it help you guys? Well, it can help you with your insurance premiums, because you'll be able to demonstrate to your insurance companies that you're giving your people detailed, fact-based, documented training. It can help you with your productivity issues, because if you'll soon be able to see if people are doing too much. You might be able to expand your charity if you've got that type of need. You don't want a damaged reputation for the charity. A lot of these vans are going around branded as your individual charities, and obviously you can incur fines and legal costs, because unfortunately there's a lot of no win, no fee lawyers. Sorry, no fee, no. If you don't win, you won't have to pay lawyers out there at the moment that are keen to make as much money as they can out of these situations. So these are all a few examples of the hidden costs that you can have by not providing training to your drivers.
I think going back to that point before, obviously from a training perspective, we need to identify the risks that untrained drivers are costing our organisations, our charities. So based on that, all training requirements need to be based on a full understanding of the risk associated with drivers. So we would do that usually by looking at accident data, doing license checks, looking at telematics data, and then obviously implementing driver profiling. So from an accident point of view, we're getting them that data usually after the event, which doesn't help our cause. From a license check, again, going back 15 years, this was an issue that I had, handing the keys over to a £40,000 vehicle to a new driver that's come into our business, and all I've done is a license check where they've got no points on their license. So we're handing a vehicle over to that driver without a full understanding of how they drive. So again, we can use that, and it'll identify areas where there is a risk, because somebody with 6 points is a bigger risk than somebody with no points, because from a speeding point of view or a risk profile, that's giving us a picture of that driver or that driver's style. Then we go into sorry, Dan, go on.
I was going to say, it's probably worth mentioning. I mean, obviously we do license checks for a lot of our charities, and we know without naming anyone, but we can give you some examples where we've gone to check a driver, and unfortunately the driver's license had been banned 4 months ago, and that obviously that person's now not insured. Now this wasn't a vindictive thing on behalf of the driver. The driver had recently moved house and had no idea that the speeding offence had gone to his old address, and because he didn't answer it, he got an automatic 6 points put on the license, which took them over the limit. So driving license checks are extremely important, and obviously they can be tailored to the needs of your charity and an individual driver. So if somebody is creeping up on points, we can start monitoring them a bit a bit more for you, and where people aren't, we would obviously extend that time frame out.
So yeah, going back to that point, you know, of identifying your driver training needs, we've got 4 key elements there. You know, like I said, accident reports, that gives us some real real in-depth stats on why accidents are happening. Previous experience for me in fleet is we had a lot of accidents, reversing incidents. And that was down to, you know, vehicles being parked in small spaces. So it was alleviating issues that caused by maybe putting rear cameras on or bumper sensors to reduce them accidents. But obviously that's after the effect. So what we're trying to do with driver training is preempt the risk to a charity with profiling and e-learning. So we move that slide on. We've got from a driver training needs, we've got accidents, we've got driver license checks, we've got telematics, which is one way of creating a driver profiling, because we can monitor what that driver's doing on a day-to-day basis. So we can monitor how that driver's driving the vehicle. So when we've got a sign written vehicle with our branding all over it, then we want to protect that brand by ensuring that that driver is driving in a safe manner. So we're monitoring speeding, idling, harsh steering, braking, and that just allows us to benchmark our drivers. Hayley will give you a little bit of an insight into that later on with her experience with the air ambulance. But that just gives us that element of how we've profiled that driver from a risk point of view. But that's great having the telematics data, because, you know, we can tell that somebody's speeding, harsh braking. We're giving them a score out of 10 from a risk point of view, but it's what we do after that event. You know, if we're identifying a driver that's speeding on a regular basis, what are we doing about it? So we need to provide some sort of e-training. So this is where the online system comes into play. We've got an online driver profiling.
Probably worth mentioning, Ron, that with the telematics and the dashboard, which you're getting a brief overview here, this actually helps your charity to become proactive. So our system reports by exception. So if there is someone that's consistently speeding, they'll show up as red all the time. So what you'll be able to then move them onto a driver training module to address this issue. But more importantly, you'll be able to demonstrate that you've got a system in place that identifies risks before they become before they result in any harm or accidents. And more importantly, you've got a process of how you address that and how you try to mitigate that, which is the driver training platform that Ron's talking about here.
Yeah, so that's being that's a proactive as opposed to reactive. You know, that's what we're trying to do with the telematics and the online driver training. We're being proactive as opposed to reactive after the event. So it just allows us to intervene and provide, like Dan said, relevant training based on their risk profile. And again, Hayley will go into that in a little bit more detail, because we're highlighting, you know, areas where a certain driver needs that extra training from a risk point of view. So we can deliver that via online training or one-on-one traiing. I know the air ambulance do that, and again, Hayley will go into that in a little bit more detail. So I think now's a good time, really, Hayley, to introduce you and your experience with the air ambulance and the changes that you've made over the the last 12 months. Well, it's longer now, isn't it? It's 18 months, I think.
It
now.
has been 18 months now, yeah. So I've been with the air ambulance coming up to 2 years. I did start in a facilities role, and they noticed that they had a huge hole for fleet. Role came available, and I applied and I got it, which was quite lucky for the air ambulance because I've got over 18 years of fleet ops experience. You know, I've done your hire, your lease, your maintenance, your MOTs. I've managed workshops. I've managed customers, budgets, P&Ls, breakdown. So I kind of knew coming into this role what we needed. I think sometimes that is always, it's lacking. We don't know what pieces of the puzzle we actually need to make the puzzle. So as Ron said, I've been in this role now probably about 18 months, and I've worked extremely close with Ron and his team. And they've probably saved my bacon quite often. So I just wanted to say thanks for everything that you guys have done for us as a charity, whether that be in the van and or the car section. So the question that I always ask myself around fleet and compliance is, am I protecting the business, the employees, the customers, and the public? And will the actions that I do on a day-to-day basis stand up in court? If you ask yourself these same questions and it creates any doubt whatsoever, no matter how big or small, then you should probably not hesitate to revisit your fleet, your training, your compliance frameworks. Safety always comes first, so look at your processes and your policies, broaden your knowledge, and offer transparency across the board. Driver training and compliance can and will improve safety and minimise risk. And within the charity community, you will always find somebody that is willing to offer you support and guidance. And for me, that's been Charity Fleetcare for the last 18 months while I've been present. So some of the bits that I wanted to look at was how does driver training improve certain areas? So within the operations, by monitoring driver habits, increasing driver training through the portal, it will increase greater knowledge and greater confidence for your drivers. And through this, you will definitely see reduction in accidents. Looking at where we go, how we get there, and how we drive, we will see an increase in efficiencies from the employee. We will see an increase in productivity from the asset. Being compliant and completing vehicle checks daily using the Webfleet app, using the driver check system to check driving licenses, and the big one that we tend to sometimes miss is the GB hours login. This is a real crucial part of our compliance element for drivers. If you complete all of these, you will build trust internally and externally, and being able to prove that you are compliant, you will be able to gain a more positive reputation within your business and with your suppliers. So reducing costs, conversation around driving habits. So this has been really important because we can pull a lot of reports from the Webfleet system. We can look at, were you speeding? Were they idling? Were they somewhere they said they wasn't? You know, it's a very live system, the Webfleet system. So if we are having conversations that are supported around factual data and factual information, this will then change driving habits. This will help reduce damages, fuels, and maintenance costs. Tracking and vehicle movements is probably one of the best things that I love about the Webfleet system, because it enables me to see exactly where my drivers are. And it's not because you want to spy on them, because it gives you like an internal peace, a bit of, it kind of settles you, knowing where they are, if they're expected to be somewhere at a certain time and they're not quite there. So it just kind of just gives you that overview. So tracking vehicle movements has been definitely something that has been able to help us reduce costs. Now, I say this in line with one of the policies that we've introduced last year. Drivers sometimes can be a bit lazy, is not, I don't know if that's the right word, guys, or the wrong word. And they see it as it's the company vehicle. They'll park it anywhere, they'll leave it anywhere. And one of the things that we concentrated on last year was our fines and PCNs. Ron would tell you, we had a huge amounts of fines and huge amounts of PCNs coming through, and none of these, they were all paid on time by the business, but a very small proportion of them were ever charged back to the driver. So there was no accountability taken there. So what we did was we put in a process where we was able to track the exact movements from Webfleet, and we was able to then propose what we call claiming back via salary sacrifice. So since September of 2023, with the use of Webfleet and tracking where the vehicle was at the time the fine said it was, and passing accountability back to our employees, we have recharged 95% of fines back to drivers. But the biggest part probably for me is that we've actually seen a 60% reduction in actually receiving fines, because we've passed the accountability back to them. And it's little things as well. It's like the time, the admin time, the time chasing, you know, me ringing Ron, saying, oh, Ron, what do you know about this? Ron, what do you know about that? It's those little things there. That will save all your time.
Yeah.
So understanding your fleet costs, your fuel costs, your payroll costs, and your insurance costs together, and I say together, literally married together with what your vehicle does on a daily basis. So you know what your costs are, but you need to know what your vehicle does. Where's it going? With the Webfleet, there is a tool on there which we have started to use as a business to plan routes, and that's going to give us route optimizing, and that will see us reduce fuel costs. It's actually allowed us to reduce our asset count. So as a business, we've been able to look at what our costs are, look at what our drivers are doing, optimize our routes via the Webfleet system. It's actually allowed us to reduce costs by actually returning a vehicle or two that we don't need. So it's definitely helped us gain a clear picture. So the big one for me is just compliance. Compliance overall. Compliance is the key to everything that we do. And in order to achieve that at the air ambulance, we use probably 3 platforms and an induction book to support us. So we use a platform called Driver Check, which was introduced by Charity Fleetcare. And this allows us to automatically check periodically driving licenses. We will check for infringements, photo cards, licensing date, and home address match. This one of the most important checks that we will need to ever do as a business, because we are beholden to our insurance. You know, in our insurance mandate, we have to make sure that we use a driving license check system, and if we don't, then we can then become liable later on if that driver had gone out, had an accident, like you guys have said earlier, didn't realise that his photo card license wasn't in date, because it doesn't mean that you drive, it just means your photo card license is out of date. But that actually will invalidate some insurance policies, and that was a big learning curve for me last year, that it would actually invalidate ours. So we are very, very strict on making sure that those checks are done on a daily basis. So the other one that we use is Webfleet. I'm going to be honest, probably could not live without this. There's so many different positives to having Webfleets and telematics installed in your system, in your vehicle. So my favorite one is probably driver profiling, and having a look and seeing just how well, you know, the drivers are doing, or how well they're not doing, because our drivers are just human beings at the end of the day, and they like to be told how well they're doing. And actually, if I can pull the factual data from the system and say, oh, hi, John, you know, this week, you know, you've got a 9.9, well done. And it's, you know, it's been derived direct from the engine of the vehicle that they're driving. You know, just a little pat on the back sometimes to these guys, you know, send them on their way and they're smiling. It means the world to them. But the important parts of it for me is the vehicle tracking, knowing where your vehicle is. It can come in handy for one of my drivers could call me and say, Hayley, I've broken down, I'm not sure where I am. I can have a look and see exactly where he is. Or I can say, well, within half a mile, we've got a quick fit. Let me get onto the lease company and we can get someone out to you. It really gives you live data and you're able to communicate with your driver through the telematics unit as well, which is also a massive plus for us, because we can send them messages, they can message us back, and it also gives us a record of that conversation that we've had with that driver if we ever want to refer to it back later on down the line. We use Webfleets for daily vehicle checks, which we, by law, we're governed to do. And we also use it for reporting. So we have set up, there's so many reports in the system, it's unbelievable. But we have set up speeding reports, Opti data reports and trip data reports, and these get mailed to the line manager every single day, so they are able to be proactive and check from any offences, I guess we would call them, that the driver have committed the day before. So we're not leaving it until we pull a report up next week. We're not leaving it until something highlighted, or Ron says, Hayley, this person's got red. We are actively sending reports to line managers so that they can actively look at the behaviours of their drivers from the following day. The reports are brilliant because drivers do just want to know things in black and white. And if it is in black and white, it is very hard for them to argue with you. They are also great in supporting with performance management issues, because HR, as you know, they like things to be very simple and to be according to the processes or the policies that we have. So they're very good for things like that. And just recently, I had a complaint come through from our supporter experience team, and it was about a driver who's erratically driving, all the normal, and he'd made a not very nice gesture. So they give us a registration, and I knew instantly I didn't quite recognise it. But system, I was able to literally go through every registration I had and pinpoint the location of where they said this offensive behaviour had taken place. And I was able to go back to my support experience team and categorically say it was not one of our vehicles. We did not have one in the area at that time. And it, made me feel quite good. So that's the Webfleet system. Again, as well as the driver check, the Webfleet system is something that we are beholden to with our insurers to have in our commercial vans. We have to have it. The next bit, actually, the driver assess training platform, I guess is what we're really all here to talk about. I've been working on this with Charity Fleetcare now for probably about 6 months. That we've been trying to get it up and running for the air ambulance. Before the system at the air ambulance, we would have an induction pack. We would have a HR induction online pack, and we would have some forms for you to fill out. So we would probably have about 4 or 5 different induction items you would need to complete, whether that be online or paper. And then when somebody asked you if that driver was compliant, we couldn't find it. We couldn't pull together a true picture. Assess, not only can we put the training modules on there that we want, and we can then assess the driver, low, medium, high risk. We are then able to say, well, actually, Hayley's done her training and she's scored all lows. Great, we'll sign her off. Hayley's got all highs. Actually, she needs a little bit more training. What more can we do? So we can actually then be a bit more specific in what training we allocate somebody who we think are high risk. That is excellent for our organisation, because it shows we call our senior leadership team that we're actually being proactive and not just taking the score for what it is. We are looking at how we can improve that driver's knowledge. We also use this platform to have additional documents and additional elements of training. So the GB hours is a huge one for everybody, as you know, filling out those logbooks, understanding the rules. So we'll give our guys training face to face on items like that, but then we put sign-off sheets onto the driver assess platform. We will do payload training, and we'll put a payload video and a payload sign-off. So if we was to ever have an accident and I was to get a call from the insurance company, which has happened on a few times, to say, have you driver checked your driver's driving license? What's their habits like on their telematics? Have they completed all their training and their e-learning modules? Have they completed their PP sign off, their payload sign off? I can get it at a touch of a button. Literally, just I can go on and view the dashboard for that one person, and I feel confident. And I know that you guys will appreciate that when somebody asks you for some very vital information and you know you've got it to hand, you get that little cheeky little feeling inside. Oh, I've got all that. Don't worry, I'm covered. That is literally the feeling that this system gives me. I'm confident. Ask away, because Hayley's done it and Hayley's got it. So that's what this brings for me. The only other bit of training that we would do for our guys, we've got a driver induction booklet. We are working on it because we're working on some of our policies and our processes at the moment. We've done a huge bit of work around gap analysis, which looks at driver responsibility, PCNs and fines, drug and alcohol, just a huge array of policies that we need to just maybe tweak and change. So those are being worked on, and they'll go into the driver induction book. But I wanted to mention the booklet today because part of our booklet is what we call we spend a day with the trainer. So we have a new driver come in, they'll go through all the web fleet training, the driver assess training, they'll have their induction, but they will actually have to go out with one of our lead drivers who will assess their training, come back and say, actually, what I've witnessed today, yeah, I feel that you're fit to drive for the charity. That's one of our most important parts, and that's also a stipulation from our insurers. So the above three platforms are what we are compelled to use by an insurance provider. In the event of an accident or an insurance claim, they can and they will ask for us to produce those compliance packs for them. If we can't provide them, it will invalidate any insurance claim. Just recently, I had one where I had managed to supply everything. I'm not sure why. They may sometimes when they send a loss adjuster out to really investigate, they don't just want you to send everything, they want to see you in action. So I was able to show them the system, show them driver check, and it was a good job. I sighed a sigh of relief, because if not, that was £42,000 that we would have been out of pocket for that stolen minibus if we hadn't been able to produce all these documents. So my last little bit is the benefits of getting it right for the employee. So it's really important for me as a fleet manager to get it right for my drivers. The top one, it's improved safety and it minimises risk. That is key to everything that we do. It will improve their knowledge, therefore building their confidence. It will improve their awareness, and it increases staff morale and employee engagement. The benefit is of getting it right for the business, for internal and external stakeholders. Again, top line is it will improve safety and minimise risk. So that is literally the theme that has probably been running throughout of my talk. It will provide transparency and accurate training records. This will produce positive and trusting relationships with suppliers and customers. And it will build an environment where you can become an employer of choice. So just on that little bit where it said it will produce trusting relationships, just a small part. We had an issue with our insurance company at the beginning of the year where we needed to renew. We were able to show them just how compliant we are, just what we do, everything that they've stated in the mandate, the driver check, the web fleet, the training module. We were able to demonstrate to our insurance provider that this is what we do on a daily basis, without a second thought. It's second nature to us. So I would have liked a reduction in insurance premiums, but we didn't quite get that. But what we did get is some flexibility around some of their rulings. Whereas previously you couldn't drive on our insurance under 25. But because we've been able to show them our robust processes and the levels of compliance that we had, they afforded us some flexibility, and they brought that down from 25 to 21. So for me, guys, thank you for listening. And if the only thing that you take away from this today is that we must improve driver training, we must improve compliance, and then we must be transparent with it. It will improve safety, it will minimise risk, and it will minimise cost.
Thank you, Hayley. That was fantastic. It's always we obviously here at Charity Fleetcare, we live and breathe our systems every single day, but it's so refreshing to hear it from someone who's actually using the system every day and is not affiliated to us. Like Ron and I see this all the time. We recently just took on a fleet for a big charity, and when we put the system in there, Hayley, exactly what you said happened. The driver scores were all over the place in the first couple of weeks. There was reds everywhere. The charity we were working with went into a panic, and Ron and I said to them, guys, this is what it's been like all the time. You just didn't know. And now we're I think we're 5 months down the line with them. They're all green. They're all green smiley faces on the because one of the things the system does do is, as you so succinctly said, there's no surprises for the driver, because they get to see this information as well. So it's not Big Brother. It's not secrets we're gathering on people, because they get this exact same data themselves. But it's interesting after a period of time how they all become more green and safer. And very quickly, some of our other charities well also do what you do, Hayley, as they provide like a newsletter, and they have awards and they recognize people for doing well in the driver scores. So and you're right that feel good factor, it doesn't cost anything to do, but it gives the staff, it boosts the morale, gets because these drivers are out on their own a lot, aren't they? So it's nice to know that you can create a little community for them.
Yeah, definitely. And using the web feed system to be able to communicate with them is definitely a plus for us. Sometimes it's a case of happy Monday morning. It doesn't have to be any more than that. Sometimes it's just hope you're feeling okay today. Happy Monday. It's Wednesday, it's hump day, but sometimes it can be, guys, I've you've been flagged, so you're speeding. Can you slow down? So you can use it for anything. But that's definitely a good communication tool for sure.
Yeah, so take a note there, Ron. Me and Katie want a happy Monday from you moving forward.
And I think going back to Hayley's point, it's the obligation that we've got as individuals to provide the support for our drivers going forward. It's my experience. Nobody drives badly on purpose. It's attitude and behavior. It could be somebody having a bad day, but unless we're drip feeding that training to them about attitude, knowledge, observation, hazard perception, people are just they get into bad habits, don't they, and bad practices. We've just got to deliver that training in a systematic way to ensure that we're giving them the support to do the job going forward.
Ron, go to the slide, because everyone. Sorry, Hayley.
So I was just going to say the feedback on is brilliant as well. So once you guys have completed the training, you actually get an option for them to do feedback, and it comes straight to you. And seeing them saying great questions, really easy, nice platform. Again, it makes you feel that you absolutely have done the right. And
it's like I said, a lot of drivers won't. We said this early on, didn't we? A lot of drivers won't look at a highway code or have that expertise since they passed the driving test. And people pick up bad habits, and it's just drip feeding that driver training on a regular basis to allow us to eradicate them bad habits and improve performance.
But because the platform is web-based, my guys are able to access it all the time. So if they're out in the field and they've thought, okay, well, I forgot what my payloads are, or something as simple as that, and have added that document as a sign off to the system. They can go in and have a look. They're emptying a bank and they'll be like, oh, can't quite remember what I was supposed to do. Let me check the risk assessment. They can go and it's like, so it's like a live tool for them, like a, you know, for them to be able to refer back to documents that they've agreed to as well. Sorry, I could keep talking about it forever, but I'll stop.
Ron, it's probably now a good point, because we, you know, I think we give everyone a really good flavour of what this is, to show them how little all this system costs for the driver training. If we can go to that slide. So this is something that Charity Fleetcare has pulled together, and as you can see from the price there, no one's making any money. This is something that Charity Fleetcare has put in place simply to help you guys. There was a need for this. So for every single driver in your fleet individually, it would be £36 per driver, but that lasts for a full 12 months. So it gives them access to all the modules that they would ever need. The first module they would do would be one where it would do an assessment on their driver, on their driving, and then from that it would give them a score and recommend any further training. If you've got the full telematics package, it would flag up if anyone needed any different training, and you could address that with a module from the package, which is included in that price.
Yeah. So from a profiling point of view, obviously we're looking at the 4 key elements, which is attitude, knowledge, which like I said before, a lot of drivers will struggle with because they've not looked at highway code for a number of years. So obviously we're drip feeding that information to them, observation and hazard perception. So we can deliver over 30 training modules to them based on that. Obviously, if we've got somebody scoring high in attitude, we would look at linking an attitude module to that profiling, so we're getting that all ticked off in one go. But there's other areas that you can highlight need, and this is something we do with the air ambulance and a couple of other charities. We're getting to that stage of the year where it's dark nights, so we'll deliver driving in adverse weather conditions to our drivers just to preempt them that, the dark nights are drawing in, the snow potentially coming. Mind you, it'd probably just be wet this year again, like it was last year. But that just, it just raises that awareness for the driver. From a system point of view, you can manage the whole system yourself as well, so you can you can highlight how you want to deliver them modules to your drivers, so you can manage. Obviously we would set everything up for you from a profile point of view and an assessment point of view, but you can manage the process yourself, from adding documents on, like Hayley said before, medical declarations to ensure that your driver has read that medical declaration. So we've got that time frame. We can see it in the bottom right hand corner there, training timeline, so we can see when a driver's profiled, how they've scored from a risk point of view, where we've got issues around the modules, the risk profiles and what modules we need to deliver to them. But it just gives you that full picture of of your drivers. And as Den said before, the whole point of this is we drip feed that information to improve driver safety and knowledge, so that we can make that driver a better driver and reduce costs, because we see that from a telematics point of view. Once we're monitoring drivers and delivering that training, we'll see costs reduced, not just in fuel, but in maintenance costs as well, because we've not got drivers harsh braking and things like that. So it just takes all that into consideration. So
this is one of our customers that we recently took over their fleet, and there's some screenshots of Ron and I went up there and delivered the driver training to them. You can see in the top left-hand corner, they're all doing the driver training there, and then we handed over the new vehicles over to them. And it was a great way of introducing the driver training to the drivers for Scope, because they didn't want it to be perceived as what it isn't. They didn't want the drivers to think it was a Big Brother exercise. They wanted them to know that they were investing in their safety and well-being, and it went down really well. It's in fact, as Hayley said, it made the drivers feel like they were valued, and the organisation cared about them, and it just helps with driver retention. We know staff's a challenge at the moment. Staffing's a challenge for everywhere, especially for charities. So it brought a nice feeling of togetherness, which they've carried on with their newsletters, and yeah, really good. So I think we're at the stage where we'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. Hope you find this beneficial. And has anyone got any questions?
We'll send we'll send a recording out to you guys and follow this up with email. So if there's any questions that you think about in the meantime, or anything you need our support with, our contact details will be on there as well. I'm sure Hayley, if anybody wants to speak to Hayley directly, I'm sure you'll accept that, Hayley, won't you? It's good to share that knowledge and that expertise and that success with other charities.
You can find me through LinkedIn. I've got so much experience and I'm so willing to share it. Like I said, driver training and compliance, it will improve safety, it will minimize risk. And if you're within the charity community, reach out. I'll support. I'll share some of my gap analysis with you guys, so maybe know what process and policies you should be working on. Anything, I'm happy to help. Just payback for what Charity Fleetcare have done for the air ambulance.
We'd also like to offer you guys a free demo code. If you'd like to have a go and have a play with the system yourself, we can send you a free demo code so you can have a good play of it and see it in action yourselves. Well, listen, guys, thank you all for attending. This has been, hope it's been beneficial to you, and thanks for your time, and have a great day.